So something interesting I've noticed is that oftentimes it feels like the healthiest people seem to be the ones that struggle with gas and bloating so often. And I think there's a reason for this, and it actually comes down to eating too much fiber. One of the most prevalent recommendations for improving health is to increase the amount of dietary fiber you consume. And there are different opinions on whether or not fiber is or is not beneficial. I think a good way to think about the action of fiber is kind of like a pipe cleaner. When you're trying to clean the inside of a pipe, you may use a cleaning tool that is slightly smaller than the circumference of the pipe. And you push it through the pipe and it will pick up some of the debris that are on the surfaces of the pipe. This is kind of like what fiber does in our gastrointestinal system. As it is not digestible, it simply sits sort of like a clump in our digestive system, and as it travels down, it has the ability to maybe clear out some of the debris on our intestinal tract. And once again, there are debates on whether or not this is good or bad, but I don't really think that anyone is able to make a conclusive statement. And I really think it just depends on the situation of the individual. Additionally, since fiber is not actually digested in the small intestine, it will make it all the way to the large intestine. And inside of our large intestine, we actually have an abundance of bacteria that do have the ability to metabolize some of this fiber, depending on which type of fiber it is. And they can produce some beneficial or harmful metabolites, depending on the state of your gut microbiome. But without testing, there's no way to tell whether or not your gut microbiome will produce beneficial or harmful metabolites. Additionally, I spoke in one of my last videos about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And this is where there are bacteria inside of your small intestine. And we want these bacteria inside the large intestine, but not the small intestine. And this fiber consumption can actually feed these bacteria in the small intestine and allow them to multiply. Once again, which is why whether or not to consume fiber is so individual dependent. Additionally, these bacteria will produce gas as a byproduct. And if we have an abundance of bacteria that produce different types of gases that cause this bloating sensation, different individuals may get more or less bloated when consuming fiber. Which means the first issue is simply going to be whether or not you have a positive or negative reaction to consuming fiber. And the only way to really find this out is either through experimentation or through some sort of microbiome testing. But I really think the best way would simply just to be experimentation. However, one of the other issues is simply consuming too much fiber. As I mentioned, this fiber is typically indigestible except for the small amount digested by bacteria. So it can pass through your digestive tract if it is smaller than the circumference of your intestines. But if you consume boluses of fiber at one time, there are scenarios in which this fiber could simply get stuck inside of your intestinal tract and increase the amount of bloating that you feel. Additionally, the longer that this fiber is inside of your intestinal tract, the more time bacteria have to ferment and produce gas out of the fiber. And if you have an abundance of bacteria either in the wrong place or of the wrong type, then this could actually contribute drastically to your sensations of bloating. And this is really why I think trying to really pinpoint the amount of fiber that's right for you is very important. And working with someone that can help you go through the process of increasing, decreasing, and altering the types of fiber could be helpful. And I think this is why there are so many mixed opinions on some people saying zero fiber is healthy, and others recommend eating as much fiber as humanly possible. But in my opinion, I don't think either of these opinions are correct for everybody, and everyone has a different threshold for fiber intake.